As we start a new month, we're looking back at August. It was a challenging month for stock and bond markets. Carrie's seeing what's happening with our local financial advisor.
And that would be Bruce Allen of Bruce G. Allen Investments, who shows up every Thursday. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Good to see you.
You too.
All right, August was fairly brutal as far as the stock market's concerned. What happened?
Well, we had a pretty tough month, and a lot of that happened after Jerome Powell talked on Friday. We saw that the markets fell during the course of the month of August. The S&P 500 was down, and the NASDAQ was down even more. The S&P 500 broad index was down roughly 4.2% in August. It's down about 17% this year so far. NASDAQ's down 5.2% in August, down over 20% so far this year. So we saw some pretty challenging markets.
Yep, and that makes you guys really busy, I know. What about the bond market? We always talk about how that goes hand in hand with the stock market, kind of.
Yes, all month long we saw interest rates rising across the board. Short-term interest rates, long-term interest rates, all rising pretty significantly. On July 31st, the 10-year Treasury bond, which is like the Dow Jones Industrial Average of long-term bonds, was at 2.58%, and by the end of the month, we were at almost 3.2%. This morning, we're at 3.25%. So we've seen long-term rates rise significantly, and that's pushing prices up or pushing interest rates up on mortgages. This is the average 30-year mortgage. There's mortgages that cost more, there's mortgages that cost less, obviously, but we started out the year a little over 5.25%, and we're just under 6% today.
Okay, and so what's behind all of this? Is it all just the interest rates going up, or is it more?
A lot of it. The real nail in the coffin for a lot of these markets was what Jerome Powell said last Friday. In fact, if you look at it, a lot of the moves we just looked at have happened since his speech last Friday at 8 a.m. In that speech, Jerome Powell took a very tough tone on inflation and said we're going to combat inflation basically whether the economy goes into a recession or not. And many people had thought, many investors had thought there might be a possibility that Jerome Powell might be able to control inflation without sending us into a recession. Many people call that a soft landing. Looks like the soft landing is out and the hard landing is in.
The hard landing,
that's
yeah.
at least his rhetoric. And so he talked very tough about inflation, and he talked very tough about not compromising until we saw inflation come back down, and that means higher interest rates for longer, and that really shook up the markets, and that's what you've seen. The impact of those statements has been negative for stocks and bonds.
Yep. So coming off a month like that, which as we said was fairly brutal, what should investors do? I mean, should we be moving stuff around or putting them into bonds, which aren't doing great either? I mean, what's out there?
Yeah, I think you make a really good point. Both stocks and bonds have done poorly for the first time in a lot of years. What I think this allows many investors to do is to step back, look and see where they are in their financial plan. Are they out of alignment? For example, many investors have a balance between stocks and bonds. It's good to check on that with your financial advisor, or just take a look at what you've got and make sure you rebalance towards your financial plan. That could be a really significant move to make during the course of this year. But everybody's situation is different, and no person has everybody's unique.
Yeah.
I think the key thing is if you've got a financial plan in place, stay with it. Continue to add to what you're doing, and also stay balanced in terms of the portfolio allocation you have. If you're a 50-50 investor, 50% stocks and bonds, rebalance to that. If you're all in stocks, think about continuing to add. They're not going to stay down here forever.
Okay, there's some optimism. I was waiting for it right at the end.
I like to get it in right before we're done.
There you go. All right. Bruce Allen, as always, thanks.
See ya.